Hey, everybody. Welcome to This Week in Pre-IPO Stocks podcast. With me, I got Nick Fusco, CEO, AView, a pre-IPO secondary market pricing company, and Clint Sorensen, Chief Investment Officer of WellShield, an outsourced CIO and investment research company. Okay, 3 topics today. We're going to hit this first one, Deel. We just talked about Deel last time we got together, but man, I got some stats in these companies. They're nuts. So I just wanted to hit on them real quick and then see what you fellows thought. So Deel had 57 million of annual recurring revenue in 2021. Okay. They hit 295 million in 2023, and now they're at 400 million now. So that's a 418% increase from 2021 to 2022 and a 36% increase just in like the first 10 months of this year. So this company is killing it. Okay, they're killing it. Then they got, I think it's their CFO sent out a tweet that said that they have $500 million in cash on the balance sheet. And their CEO came out and said that they're EBITDA profitable. These guys are growing like a weed and they're profitable. Okay, just an incredible business. We talked about them last week, but I mean, Nick, I know you got a special place in your heart for these guys, or at least you guys have done a lot of research on them. Maybe that's a nice, better way of saying it, right? But what do you got? Any thoughts on this? On these metrics or anything else related to Deel?
Yeah, I think we chat about Deel, but we don't talk about Rippling or Gusto very much.
Yeah, let
And
it rip.
funnily enough, if I were to recite some similar ideas across for Rippling, it sounds like they pretty much almost doubled from news that we're seeing in the last year or so. So that's better in some regard than the stats you put on Deel, because we have to
Sure.
take into account what we had from COVID. We had that massive COVID boom. Let's get new HR tech. Let's hire externally. Let's let people live or sit or work wherever we can. So I don't want to
Right.
discount anything that we're seeing from Rippling. I think they're sitting on almost twice as much cash, which is
Ooh.
remarkable. They did a funding round the month after uh, that Deel did, valued very, very similarly or just under, so 11 and
Okay.
12 billion from our
Yep.
sourcing, and we see Deel down about 41% from the funding round, and we see Rippling down about 36% from the funding round. So actually, they're like mirror images of each other when we look at that over the time horizon. And then Gusto, we've seen a huge amount of volatility on that. Actually, a very similar amount of ARR to what we have on Deel, but they're
Okay.
valued way less. So they're valued at
Mm.
not a bit over half of what those guys are. So real interesting dynamics here, and I think it's almost like who's going to have the better growth story on the go forward basis, because we just had such a big snap from COVID, and who's going to be able to carry the torch and continue that. So
Right. Oh,
yeah, I don't want to align myself with any one of the three particularly, but
right.
I do think somebody's going to win out here in a big way.
Well, so okay, so Nick highlights it's a good across the board, right, Clint? So not to state the obvious, but these like naturally are attractive, right? Revenue
Yeah,
up big, profitable. What do you think?
yeah. I mean, it's a classic growth story, right? You're getting huge growth. Um, I mean, you've got good cash on the balance sheet for acquisitions or other strategic opportunities. I think those two that you mentioned, those are the three big plus stuff that partially in business, and so I've been very pleased with that user experience, and I imagine those three will continue to dominate for pretty competitive platforms, and it'll be interesting to see who wins out. But yeah, Deel looks pretty strong based on the numbers that you sent me, and I haven't looked correctly. So
That's cool. Yeah, man. Well, obviously, really like a really natural value proposition for these companies, right? And clear value add. So probably a lot of runway for these folks. So okay, I gotta transition us into Humane, the Humane AI Pin. So anyone listening to this who hasn't checked this out yet, you got to go to their website and watch the video on this thing. It's a all right. So like I'm not gonna geek out on it, but it's like something that you wear. It's a like a lapel pin. Okay, you hit it and it's like you have a conversation with an AI. There's a phone number in there. You can do text. It checks your email. There's a camera, video. So you take photographs. You can do real time translation, nutrition stuff. It's like AI in your pocket. It's crazy, right? Really cool. All these people are out of Apple. So I'll just like maybe Clint, because I know Nick, you were already geeking out earlier with me, right? So maybe we'll let Clint take first shot at this. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think of the AI pin, buddy? Is it like high on this Clint Sorensen Christmas list this year, or what, bud?
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. I love to play with it. You know what I mean? I like a new gadget. Anytime I can get a new gadget, I'm jumping. I mean, I think this is just incredible because now it's showing hard use cases for AI. Think about this in the Internet of Things perspective. That was the big range. Now we start to overlay AI capabilities that we have in the Internet of Things and all the everything. I think refrigerators, I think microwaves, I think absolutely anything that can be hooked up will be hooked up. And I think this is just this is going to go so fast and exponential that it's going to make our heads spin. It's already making my head spin. Shows my age, I guess, being 41. This is just nuts. I mean, nuts.
So Clint likes it. Clint likes it. What, Nick? What do you think? What's your take?
I'm the cynic. I mean, we had this in the '60s, right? You ever watch Star
Oh,
Trek?
come
They have
on, man.
the lapel pin. It's the same thing. So, Aaron, what do you have on your wrist today? Do you have the Whoop?
I got a whoop. I got a whoop.
You
Yeah,
got
I
the
got a
Whoop.
whoop.
And before the Whoop, maybe you had the Fitbit,
True.
and maybe your kid had the GoPro, and maybe you never had the Snapchat sunglasses.
Oh,
But
I see where you're going
all
with
of this
this.
stuff
I see where you're going.
it just seems relatively fatty. And I think I know we often talk about AI, and the pure winners here are going to be your Nvidias, your Googles, your Metas, and so on. I think this is going to be the same play. I love that these guys are out of Apple. The first thing when you queued up the idea, and I saw it, and it looked like the Star Trek pin. I was
Yeah.
thinking, have you ever heard of General Magic? There's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of the yeah. So that's like the story behind this that I thought of. I was like, oh, these guys are going to be the talent to come up with everything from the image identification when they're looking at a vegetable to see the sugar content to the translation, so somebody can ask what's good at this restaurant in Mandarin. I think was on the website, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like the winners behind the scenes are going to still be could be Google. Like Google Glass did this 5 or 10 years ago. You could show it an
Sure.
image and it would say what you're talking about. Google Translate did this on the translation. So what is this wearable doing on your lapel that an Apple Watch couldn't do today? And is this
Fair
going to
point.
be changing technology? I think it's just bringing all these disparate technologies together into one device that we kind of already have on our iPhone or our Apple Watch or what have you. So
Yeah.
I'm not too bullish other than, hey, it looks really cool and nobody's thrown something on their lapel before. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
I'm pretty negative on it.
I'm in for the FOMO. Like if I see somebody on the street with this, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, like I got. What am I doing? I gotta get an AI pin. But the right, come on. But I gotta tell you, like the thing that's blowing my mind away, because I got young kids, right, and we're always talking about screen time. There's no screen on this thing. You like hold your hand out, and it puts like this laser thing onto your hand, right, and you can like kind of control it with this. There's no screen. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
no, it's going to be on a bright day. You're going to be squinting at your fingers to see what this
Oh,
thing is projecting on your hand. No,
Nick's
I'm
very
very.
bearish on this. Very bearish.
I think I love the kit, and I love that it's all together. But that's no different than chatting to your Amazon Alexa at home or the
You're
Google
not
that we were
wrong.
talking about with
I understand.
ChatGPT.
I
And
understand.
if it's on your lapel, it's not wearable enough that it's in your ear. I would take an Apple Watch any day of the week instead of looking at this thing.
Oh,
No
this
way.
is going to be interesting. I almost feel like we need to make a bet here. Like we're going to place like an over/under bet on if this thing's going to play out or not, right?
Oh,
I think you got to look at it from a
it'll
consumer perspective or an investment perspective. Right?
yeah.
Definitely mutually. I want to play with it, but I don't think I'd invest in the company. Right?
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a lot of different things you got to make into that equation. So
I will say this though, fellas, think about when I remember when the what was it called? iPod came out, and I was like, dude, I got a Walkman. I got a, whatever that was, the CD thing. I'm good. Like, what do I,
So
you know what I mean? I got my black case in my car with the CDs. Like, what do I need all that? I got, I got my CDs I like in my car already. What do I need that thing for? You know what I mean?
This goes back to one of the things that Jeff Bezos said in an interview one time, he said when he buys a company, he's looking for mercenaries or missionaries, right? And so is this a mission, or are they just trying to be, they're trying to be first to market? It's really attractive. So someone like an Apple just says, hey, I kind of like this and that what you did here, I'm going to buy
Yeah.
it. And that's a bit, something to consider as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
digging.
I don't think there's anything novel here, and I love that you brought up the iPod, because if you went back to General Magic, guess who was there? Tony Fadell. He was on the dev team for the iPod, but they were creating something so novel. I don't think
Right.
anything is novel about this besides putting it together. It's like taking lemonade and iced tea and mixing it and be like, check
Oof.
this out. We got an
Ouch.
Arnold Palmer here.
Ouch.
All right, yeah.
Ooh, Nick, ouch. I
I'm
love it.
strongly,
I love it. Nick's
strongly
bringing the
opposed.
heat today. He's bringing the heat today. I love it. Listen, you know what? I'll make a prediction here. Here's a prediction from me, right? I think so, Nick. You're not wrong, right? I will say this. They're like one thing away. And who knows what that is, right? They're one thing away from making the thing pop. Like, I feel like once the iPod added phone and text and email, it was like game over. Like, you connected that thing to the internet and it was game over, right? And this thing, I don't know what version of that would be, because obviously it's like super high powered already, but some magic thing happens and all of a sudden everyone's like, I got to have an AI pin, right? It's like the only way to go.
So I think the magic thing on this, and this will probably appeal to Clint, is well, not perfectly, but if you can't tell what the product is, you are the product, like that sort of idea. If it's an always on technology and it's always listening and it's paired to you and understands you best,
Yeah.
hey, guess what? You're going to be walking down the street in 5 years and the billboards are going to be flipping around to pitch you the latest TV show you want to see. Like,
Right.
you are the product there. You can do this pretty cheap and it just knows everything about you. That's what I'm saying. I'm comparing it to the Apple Watch, because that one
Right.
knows your fitness levels. It knows your heart rate. It knows, I think it helped save my buddy's dad's life because it said you're having a heart attack.
Wow.
It'll be
Wow.
maybe akin to that sort of thing. But
Sure.
the gadgetry, I'm not terribly impressed by. What it learns on you, and your environment, because it's always on, right? That's
Yep.
pretty big. That's pretty big. I'll
It's
give it
gonna
that.
be interesting.
That's the one.
This would be interesting. I'm like, now I'm really interested. I was interested before, but now hearing Nick so passionate about this, like now I'm like definitely interested to see how this is gonna play out, right?
Somebody will buy it for the data, I would say.
That's probably true.
I don't think the tech is terribly novel, though their marketing is amazing. The website's
marketing is
beautiful.
amazing.
So if no one has seen it yet, it's not even humane.com. It's like hu.ma.
Yes.
Just check it out. But it's a very beautiful website. Coming from someone who designed websites like 20 years ago. So
that's well said. They're getting it right on the aesthetic side for sure. Okay, let's talk SpaceX, my favorite topic to talk about, full stop, right? So SpaceX came out. They projected some revenue forecast. So they were at 8 billion for 2023. That was their forecast. They bumped that up to 9 billion. Okay. $3 billion of adjusted EBITDA for this year. $15 billion for 2024 is their forecast. So that's a big jump. And get this, 10 billion of the 15 billion is going to be Starlink revenue. So 2/3 of the revenue is going to be Starlink next year. Okay. So they've been talking about Starlink being a $30 billion a year business. My math, if you go from 0 to 30 billion in like 5 years, I think that's a 30 times revenue multiple business. That's a $900 billion business, right? That's just Starlink. So here's my math. I kind of back of the envelope. I have this like revenue model that I put together for SpaceX. So I won't bore you with the details, but based off of what they just announced and what I would consider very conservative estimates going forward, I have them at 41 billion in revenue in 5 years time, 2028. And that gives them a $986 billion valuation.
Just for Starlink?
That would be the whole company. But in 5 years, Clint, it would be 30 billion for Starlink. That's like a nice, like that's linear projection of customer growth, not like exponential, which I think is probably conservative. So 30 billion and then like $11 billion of SpaceX revenue. And that doesn't even assume that's the rocket ship launch. That doesn't even assume Starship hits. If Starship hits, that thing's going to go too. So this company's primed for like $1 trillion plus market cap, in my opinion. So, maybe Clint, we'll start with you. Like, what do you think of the Starlink business and its kind of future revenue potential?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it is going to grow exponentially. I have a Starlink. I haven't even put it on my house yet, but everyone I know is putting it on their boats. They're putting it on everything. Like, I mean, it's just, and you're seeing it in a rising geopolitical tension environment. You're seeing the use cases that you're seeing. I mean, start thinking about what if there was an attack on the grid? What if there was something that just happens to an aging grid? Uh, they're talking about solar storms wiping out. I just saw an article today. Solar storms potentially wiping internet for a few weeks. And I'm thinking, man, like this is crazy. I think how much of what we do is depend on internet being connected. I
Right.
think that's probably one of the best growth stories of the last 20, 25 years has been this rise of connectivity, bringing humanity together. And I love it because I think it allows that to allows it to power that infrastructure in a way that is far more resilient than what's currently available. So I love the Starlink business. That was one of the first reasons I started SpaceX a long time ago, was because of the Starlink business. That was what got me to the
Yeah.
realization that this could be a trillion. I thought Starlink alone could be a trillion.
Right.
So I think
Right.
this is it's right for a spinoff. And I think if there was ever an idea, but I think SpaceX as an idea does make a lot of sense to me. But they spun off Starlink as an idea that makes a lot of sense to me,
Yeah.
especially with this type of growth.
Right. So Nick, anybody with Starlink? You ever use it yourself or anything like that?
Yeah, I know this guy Clint. He just bought it. I don't think he set it up yet. No, it. I don't know if it's going to be the exponential growth on the Starlink, but I I can think of there's so many different places that folks are going to be using this in lieu of their traditional connectivity. Um, and also, I would almost go the opposite of Clint's side. I think the transportation component could eventually just be a massive piece of that business. So if Starlink does have this exponential kick, then level, or be a straight line, I think all these other ancillary components that are kind of like your moonshot ideas could just be really incredible typical business or business as usual for them in 5 years' time. So
Yeah.
I am almost perpetually I'm always suspect, but I'm pretty consistently a bull on that stock.
Yeah.
I see there's so much room for the upside on it.
Yeah. Well, I think what's wild is I mean, this is my, far right field concept. I think SpaceX is going to throw off multiple $1 trillion businesses. Like I think Starlink's the first of many. So Starlink, I think will be $1 trillion business. I'm having even higher conviction about that every day, especially as more news comes out. But then Nick, to your point, there's like space manufacturing, there's space travel. That's not like we're going to Mars, but like we're going from like New York to Beijing in like a half hour, right? Instead of 16 hours. So like, there's and then there's all these other businesses, space mining. All of these things are predicated off of this rocket system where you can send something to space and land it back on Earth, and the cost is so inexpensive to do that. You can now, it like creates these new industries. SpaceX is the only one that can send stuff up or down. I was listening to this like CNBC special, fellas, and they're like, the reporters in there are like, oh, Amazon's going to start a satellite internet business. This company's going to start a satellite internet business. That company's, and then the one thing they didn't say was like, I'm like, how are they going to get the satellites up there?
Yeah,
Yeah, the cost reduction that SpaceX has brought to the market is just incredible for putting satellites up there. I mean, I don't want to quote a stat, but effectively, if you looked historically over the last like 10 years of what market share SpaceX have for putting satellites up, it's just outrageous. Like nobody
Right.
holds a candle there. So
No.
I think that's just going to continue across all those sectors. Great vision on that. and
It's a monopoly.
that'll continue.
It's
Have
a
you seen
monopoly.
It'll
And then I
Have you
think,
seen?
go ahead.
Have you seen the satellites like in the sky? It's crazy. I'll never forget when I first saw it. I thought it was a UFO. And I was with my whole family. It was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And we're pulling in my drive. It's actually 3 years ago. We're pulling in my drive. And we look up. It was 2021 Christmas is what it was.
Okay. Okay.
That's what it was. So we're pulling in down to my driveway. And I look up in the sky. And all I see is this massive string of lights.
Yeah, right.
Incredibly orderly. And my daughter's like, "Is it a UFO?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it's a UFO," because I have no idea what that is. So I went on Twitter and I was like, "UFO in Raleigh, North Carolina," and like all these people were typing about this UFO, and it ended up being Starlink, which was
That's
so crazy.
wild.
It looked wild. I was expecting Will Smith to jump out and start, protecting us from aliens. Like,
Right. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, man. I think it's the first of many. I think Nick's right. I think they're going to be doing space manu. I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can't even like dream about. Right.
Think about waste management, right? Think about waste management. Let's say nuclear waste management. Right? I mean, think about if you want to really go green and pursue this decarbonization theme, which I think everybody can get beside. So,
Yeah.
a way to get clean energy effectively. I'm for this. Think about if you go nuclear and you solve that waste issue. Right?
Yeah. Just send it to space. Let it rip.
Send it to space. Send it to a radioactive planet. Right? Call it a day.
That's it. I mean, it's fascinating. I truly believe that this company is going to start throwing off $1 trillion businesses. Starlink's just the first of many, and it's gonna be pretty special. Yeah. So I think you heard it here. I think it's a $986 billion business in 5 years' time. So buy it while it's hot. So, all right, fellas, this is good. So, Clint, I know you needed it in, but we got a couple more minutes. Anything that's on your guys' mind? I'm a little disappointed. I was going to buy you guys AI pins for Christmas, but then after hearing Nick talk about this, I think I got to figure something else out.
Give him a chat GPT app first.
Look at him, Nick. He's like, like Clinton. Nick's like, oh, maybe AI pin. It's okay.
Get me some eggnog so I can see all those UFOs over Raleigh next time I'm there.
Yeah, man. Now we're talking. I love it. I love it. All right, fellas. This is great. Thank you. I appreciate you guys' time this week.
See you guys, man.